Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue the WJ knuckle swap, and first step, already got big problems, so let's get after it. I want to set these in so I can figure out which spacers I'm going to need, and I don't think the ball joint's supposed to be that easy. Oh, come on. Bam! No press needed. So I'm not gonna wait. I made this gamble when I bought these. Now it doesn't fit as tight as the factory one did. Now I can push the factory one all the way to here by hand. So anyway, I knew I made this gamble that I might have needed the knurl ones because there's no knowing without pulling it apart, but I didn't want this thing sitting here apart. So this is what I got. I'm gonna clean this off. And I'm going to do what the guy in the comments said on the last video. I'm going to leave the lower ones are tight. I'm going to leave them alone. This one, I'm going to put a stitch on each side with my TIG welder. And that's just going to be what it is. I do want to note, I'm not necessarily a big fan of this. But it's going to work. Try to keep it from getting too hot. If I can take it easy like that, maybe I won't get all the guts too hot. Shouldn't be cooling it down like that, but I don't want to get the ball joint guts too hot, whatever other materials might be in there, whatever plastics might melt. So this is what I'm going to do. If it becomes a problem, I'll worry about it. Enough. That's all I'm going to do, just 2 stitches like that. Call it alright. I don't recommend doing this necessarily. If you got time, maybe just order the knurled ones anyway, or take it apart so you know that you're going to need it. I'm not entirely sure this was a proper fit, even if it wasn't worn out, because the stock one fit tighter than this did. But either way, we're marching on. I think I should have put the bottom one in first, but I didn't. So I'm just going to use my socket and a hammer Tap it on up there. We'll see how many hits it takes. Alright, we're now going to work on welding these spacers on. Now, I'm not going to weld it all the way around. Now, whether you should or shouldn't, that's up to you. I'm not that worried about it. Now, the problem is the chamfer here. And the way this fits, like it fits pretty decent. But you can see how much is sticking out. It's very little. It just gets past the chamfer. Like when you set it in there, it's not wiggling around, it's not moving. So it's still hub centric right now. So I'm just gonna set this down, clean it up a little bit. I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna set this in here, warm it up a little with the torch, and then I'm gonna weld this in 3 spots to the knuckle. And that's all I'm gonna do. I'm sure lots of people have their opinions about that, but we'll find out. This is what I'm going to do, and when it breaks off, you'll know not to do it. Or, if you're not capable of doing this yourself, you could take it to a shop and have them weld it all the way up. But this is my Jeep, and this is what I'm doing. Well, here we go. I've got it cleaned up a little bit with a brush. I'm just going to try to lay a bead in there, and we're just going to see how it goes. It did alright. We're just going to have to see how it turns out. I mean, this looks fine. There's no telling what it's going to do. I think this should be fine. I've welded up blocks before, not cracks in blocks. But like where a ball cap broke off, I've welded those up before. And I haven't had any problems. So, this should be alright. Is it right? Probably not. Is it going to work? Probably. So if you don't trust this or you don't think you can handle it, just take it to a welding shop and they can do it. I don't recommend not using them at all because it is barely in the hub, or the part that's centering it, it's just barely there. So I'm going to weld these other 2 sides and we're going to slap it on. The knuckles are going on just fine. I just wanted to make a note that whenever you're lining up your ball joints, you can kind of twist them where you want the cotter pin to be, and then smack the knuckle up with a hammer to try to seat it. And it doesn't always work, but a lot of times it will lock this down where you want it. Where when I was pulling them off, they were pointed at the wall here. Just lazy people. So if you can do this and help yourself out for the future, just try to think ahead. We've got our knuckle on. Now I'm going to slap the hub bearing back in, put the bolts in, and just snug them up. And I forgot to buy rotors. I'll get them tomorrow. Hopefully a store locally has them. They should. It's nothing fancy. It's just a WJ. But I am going to set the brakes up here, bolt them up, and I should be able to get a look at if wheel spacer is going to make my wheels clear, or if I just need to go back to the pick apart and get the Teef style brakes, which are smaller. I don't know how much smaller, but I'll be sure to measure that before I buy them again, because eventually I want the biggest brakes I can get. Everyone does. But if I can't make it work with what I got, because tires aren't cheap, I just bought those. I don't want to have to buy a different tire to go to a 16. So whatever I got to do to make those wheels work, that's what we're doing. Alright, let's slap this thing in. Oh, come on. Maybe I can get this in there. Oh yeah. Give it back. It's good enough for fitting. Alright, I've got several bolts. Let's see, bracket to here. Probably the larger ones, finer thread. That doesn't look like that's long enough. I guess it is. I guess this is where you would put that spacer if you need it. And I don't have the rotors to even try it. So we'll leave this here. We're going to go ahead and throw the spacers on. Now, seeing how much bolt sticking out, there's really not that much bolt sticking out. So you should probably get some longer bolts. This is going to work for fitting it up. But I definitely wouldn't leave this here forever, because that's all you'd have holding the caliper bracket. So that's a no-go. But for mock-up, it's going to be fine. So I could see people being wary of that, but you can get longer bolts. Where? I don't know. Fastenals, Amazon, lots of places. But definitely don't just put the spacer in and think you're going to be alright, because that's scary. Let's see if I can get my other light over here. You can see how much is left. You need that extra 1/4 inch. Alright, that's there. We'll just slap this on here. You see just how much bigger the calipers are, and the rotor diameter is going to be drastically different, I believe. Which means it's definitely going to hit. Hopefully the wheel spacers make it be able to get away with it. Come on. That one started. That's good enough for what we want to do. So this is with no spacer at all, and then we'll throw a spacer on just to see if it's going to clear. I'm going with probably definitely not with no spacer, but let's try it. interesting. Holy crap. Alright. I'm sure the caliper's not in its exact spot because the rotor's not on there. And keep in mind the rotor's not even on here pushing the wheel out. So if this fits with no spacers at all and no rotor on there, then it's good to go. I have no worries about that. Come on, you bastard. This gotta be touching, there's no way. Where's our 3/4? Wheel flopping all over the place isn't helping. We're touching with no spacer. All right, I think we're gonna be okay. I don't think you'd be okay without spacers. Yeah, not okay without spacers, but with spacers, we might be all right. So I'm gonna get this back off, get the spacer on, and then we'll look at it again. Well, I'd say they might work. It's free right here, but it really depends on rotor location and caliper location whenever I actually get the rotors on to see where they're going to center, because it is so close. So close. So if when I get the rotor on it sits right here and that's as close as it is, as long as it doesn't touch. If it does touch, like if you had a bent wheel, it's going to touch in that spot. At least you'll know your wheel's bent. But some people probably aren't comfortable with this. I'm not against just grinding a little bit of the caliper off, just a little bit, to give me a little more room. Because if I can get by with this, I'll do this for a while until I upgrade to 16s or 17s or whatever else. So, we'll find out tomorrow when I get some rotors for sure how close everything is. Because if this goes in a lot further, then shoot, I'm pushing all the way in and we're touching in some spots depending on how you flex it. So we'll see. While I'm waiting on some more parts to get in, tearing apart the other side. Lower ball joint, driver's side, still pretty tight. Upper ball joint, not so much. Alright, now I'm not sure. That thing was still too small to really use it as an install tool. So I hammered this one in, and it wasn't like the other side. I probably still took 30 swings, so it was still pretty tight. And the top one, I had to press in all the way. So this side's probably alright. So I don't know if that's really a fair review to the teraflex joints. Now, I don't know how the other side got so damn tight. I understand the one side getting so loose. But on that side, the ball joint, the stock one that came out, was tighter than the replacement one. So I don't know if their machining isn't that good, or the aftermarket's machining's not that good, but this side went in like it was supposed to. So take that as you will. Where I welded that other one in, this axle is just temporary. Kind of. I mean, it's going to be on here for a while. But I've got an 8/8 over there, and my plan is I'm going to end up doing the lift ass backwards. I'm going to do the 8/8 and the long arm in the back first. And then I'm either going to get a Dana 44 or a high pinion, because this is a low pinion, or a high pinion Dana 30, and go through and put the axle reinforcements, put all the truss, put everything into it to make it as strong as I can. So Dana 30 or Dana 44. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on this thing. So probably going to be a Dana 30. I have an XJ. I believe that's what has all the high pinion stuff. And then we'll put these knuckles on. And when we do that, I'm going to buy another brand of ball joint. Not just because I'm not so sure about this brand, but so that we'll have an experience with this brand, and then we'll have experience with another brand of upgraded ball joints. I'm sure you could just do this with stock stuff. But this is you could put a stock upper ball joint in, as long as you use a WJ lower, you're good to go. You don't have to get fancy ball joints. I just thought this would be better. Now I think it might have bit me in the ass. So that's all I can give you is my opinion and how it went. Take that information and do with it as you will. But I'm going to get this side slapped together. Well, that's going to be it for this video. I thought I was going to be able to do this in 2 parts, but it's looking more like 3. I've got some parts I'm waiting on. I went ahead and got the 2001 Cherokee unit bearings. Now, we're going to look at the difference between the ZJ bearings that were in it and those bearings, just to see what changed. But if it can make us not have to use those spacers behind the caliper bracket, I'd rather do that, especially since the brake caliper is so close to the wheel and we're so close to getting away with it. We want as much room as possible. Now I know that if you get rid of that 1/4 inch spacer, that just means that the wheel flange is moved in a 1/4 inch. So we didn't really gain that much room, but at least we don't have to go find longer bolts, hopefully. I'm not even sure. This is all just going off of some write-ups, and there's so many write-ups saying different things. So I'll try to give as much information so that you know what you can do or what you don't want to do. Anyway, all subscribers, thank you. Anyone that hasn't subscribed, hit the button. And thank you for watching.